Story 1. This whole incident happened about 1 month ago, and I am still quite rattled by the whole thing. I've spoken to a counselor and a few close friends, but really value the advice and opinion of third parties. My girlfriend of 3 years, up until this incident, has been an extremely loyal and supportive woman. I love her very much and we have been living together for the past 2 years. One of her self-admitted issues is that she sometimes can have a tendency to overdrink when she is sad, depressed, or anxious. I have always been aware of it, but to be honest, probably never took it seriously enough until this incident. Here is what happened. She was out of town for a week for a sporting competition that she was a part of. We talked on the phone every day and things were good. No fights, no issues, nothing out of the usual. She ended up performing very poorly in the competition and understandably was super upset. She called me in tears afterwards. The next night there was a big wrap-up party in town. She told me she was going, and that she was meeting up with a group of girls for pre-drinking beforehand. I told her great. Have fun and be safe. The day after the party, I went to pick her up. As soon as I arrived, I knew something was wrong. She told me I got really drunk last night, which immediately concerned me. After the drive home, I asked her, did anything happen last night? She sat down and started to cry. She said something bad had happened. She said this guy had kissed her. I was obviously upset and was asking for more details. Where did it happen? Who was there? How long was it? She genuinely did not have these answers. She had blacked out much of the evening. It seems like an excuse to some, but I know my GF and I've seen her black out before, and I fully believe that she doesn't remember all the details. I told her she needed to call the guy and find out what had happened because the not knowing would drive me crazy. The next day she called the guy and got all the details. It turns out it was worse than she remembered. Apparently, they walked home from the party together and she ended up in his house. The way he put it, they hooked up on the couch, then had a moment of clarity and said, I can't be here, I have to go, and left his house and walked home. She didn't remember any of this. All she remembered was him leaning in for a kiss. So, she told me this update and I was crushed. I broke up with her. It was awful. She was crying and telling me it was the biggest mistake of her life, and she doesn't understand herself how it could have happened. Backstory here, the other guy in this situation is someone she trusted, a friend she has had through work for about 7 years. They no longer work together, but they kept in touch from time to time in a friendly way. I was always concerned with his intentions, but my girlfriend never hid their communications from me or anything like that, so I was always okay with it. I think this is why she ended up walking home with him. She trusted him, and he was probably flirting with her and making her feel good about herself when she was in a very drunk and depressed state. I still will never know or understand how she ended up in his house, on his couch, and that really hurts. We had been broken up for about 5 days. She went to her mother's house for the time being. We connected regularly and she expressed deep regret, remorse, and ownership of her actions. She also fully admitted her problem with alcohol and expressed true desire to change for the better. I was starting to entertain the idea of forgiveness, but was still very hurt, angry, and betrayed. Then the next day I literally almost run into the other guy. It was as if the universe wanted me to talk to him. I really feel that way because he lives in a different city and the odds of us running into each other where we did was really low. I had a mini panic attack and then approached him and said we need to talk. I told him I was very upset and that my girlfriend couldn't remember everything, and I wanted to know what had happened. He told me everything. There was nothing pre-planned or premeditated. He told me about the phone call he had with her where she told him she couldn't remember anything, and he felt really awful about what had happened. I could see by the look on his face he realized he had done something wrong. I asked him directly, did you have sex with her? And he said no. I asked him again, are you sure you didn't have sex with her? He said no. Then he said, we made out on the couch. I had my hands down her pants. I had to put a condom on, but it never got to that point. She apparently said, I can't be here, I have to go, and left. This conversation changed my whole perspective on what had happened. It really sounds like this man was taking advantage of her in a drunken state, and although my girlfriend is also guilty, she no longer held 100% of the blame in my head. If my girlfriend was consenting to sex, there would have been no condom, and they would have been in the bedroom, not on a couch. This made me realize that there was no conversation had, no consent given. Yes, she made a mistake. Yes, she kissed him, but everything passed that sounded more like it was happening to her than her participating in it. I also spoke to a couple of her friends that were at the per drink with her. They both confirmed that she was really drunk and that this guy was acting very flirtatious and sketchy towards her. I was upset that her friends didn't look out for her given the circumstances. In light of all this information, I decided I owe this woman another chance. I went to see her. I told her about the conversation I had with the guy, and she broke down crying. She was so relieved to know that they had not had sex. I couldn't imagine what that would feel like, to know you hooked up with someone, but not knowing what had happened to your body or how far it went. She was genuine. She made a vow to change for the better. She promised me that she would embrace sobriety, make a serious change with her drinking for once and for all. She also started seeing a counselor to work through her insecurities, depression, and relationship with alcohol. So I took her back. We have now been back living together for 3 weeks. She hasn't had a drop of alcohol, and I do see a true change in her. That said, I am plagued by replaying that evening over and over again in my head and overanalyzing everything. We talked about it lots, but sometimes she gets really down when we talk about it because of how ashamed and guilty she feels about it. Do you think I made a mistake giving this woman another chance? Do you think in time I will forget about that evening and feel normal again? Is it a good or bad idea to keep talking about that evening? For the people asking about our ages, I am 28 male and she is 30 female. Although most would agree she is a young soul and I am an older soul. Comment, and honestly, there's a good chance they just matched up stories. Original poster, I appreciate you playing devil's advocate, as hard as it is for me to hear. But I know they didn't match up stories. I've seen all the correspondence they've had. I only ran into the guy by chance. Neither me, my girlfriend, or this other guy knew that conversation would happen. It was really a serendipitous run and that he definitely didn't expect. And yes, the guy could have lied to my face about what happened, but my gut tells me he was telling me the truth. And the story he told me was the same story he told my girlfriend a few days prior. Story 2. Recently found out that my wife of 5 years has been unfaithful with 2 different people. So, here's my story. The affair. D-Day was the 30th of January 2022. My wife had taken our 2-year-old son on a play date with her best friend and left me with the usual household chores to do. Whilst tidying up our bedroom, I found a receipt for some lingerie that she bought on the 6th of November 2021. She had only ever worn lingerie for me once before at the very start of our relationship, and I'd never seen this lingerie. I took a photo of it and sent it to her. She immediately tried to lie her way out of it by saying it was a Christmas present for me that she'd chickened out of wearing. I knew this was nonsense. So, I used our shared laptop to log on to her emails, and sure enough, the 17th of November was confirmation of a hotel booking in a nearby city. When she got back, I confronted her with it and she admitted to sleeping with a guy she met through work twice. Once in July and once in November. It was a classic case of work flirting becoming more. She was due to leave that job in August, so he said that this was their last chance to do something about it and she agreed. Afterwards, she told him not to contact her again and she changed jobs. Then towards the end of October, he messaged her about a different job she might be interested in. The messaging started again and resulted in another meetup. Afterwards, she told him not to contact her again and this time blocked his number. He was older than her and divorced. My entire world fell apart. I could barely get out of bed in the morning. I promised her that I wouldn't make any rash decisions and we began to discuss what happened. She said that she blocked his number because she knew he wouldn't stop contacting her, and that she wanted to have the life she had with me and our son, and keeping in contact with him would always prevent that. She knew she wasn't special and that she was probably one of dozens of women he was contacting, and there was never anything over than sex and physical attraction between them. She said she was glad I found out because it made her realize just what it was she had to lose. I asked her over and over if there was anything else she needed to tell me and she said no. But I was still suspicious. I don't know why, but about a week later I went on to her emails again. After lots of searching, I found a message about a hotel meetup from a guy with an anonymous email from 2018. I confronted her again. She admitted to joining a dating website in early 2018. She said she was messaging 4 or 5 men on there but never really had any intention of meeting up with them. Then she connected with AP too, and the chemistry built until a hotel meetup was arranged. It happened once and they both agreed that it was a stupid thing to do. They haven't been in contact since. She said there was more of an emotional connection with him than with AP1, which was purely physical. Our marriage. So, what was our marriage like? Well, back in July 2021 when she first slept with AP1, it wasn't good. We'd just moved into a new house. She hated her job, and that combined with the everyday stresses and strains of looking after a young child meant that we totally disconnected with each other. We blamed each other for every little thing that went wrong, and I'm not even sure we could even say we were friends at some points. But by November we had got a lot better, not perfect, but then that's life. And in 2018 when she signed up for the website and subsequently met AP2, we were okay then as well. What I will say is that our sex life wasn't great. My ex-girlfriend and I had a pretty toxic relationship when it came to sex, and that meant that I was really nervous about talking about sex with anyone. After the initial honeymoon period after I met my wife, our sex life became infrequent and formulaic. I didn't know how to address it, and she has since said that she just thought I wasn't interested in sex that much. We began trying for a baby straight after we got married, and even then, we weren't having sex a lot. It took us almost 2 years to get pregnant. After our son was born, sex became even less frequent. Where are we now? I resolved not to make any rash decisions, and I haven't. It's been 5 weeks since the day. We're still living together, and to the outside world we are carrying on as normal. I want to try and reconcile, and she says she does too. She genuinely seems remorseful, and I believe when she says that she doesn't want to do it again, and that me finding out has been the wake-up call she needed. She has said I can have access to her email and phone anytime I want. I believe her when she said she hasn't contacted either of the APs since she last did. We have both agreed about the need for MC. The biggest thing to have happened is that she made an attempt to self-delete herself. She took a lot of painkillers and fell asleep, but nothing more than that. She is starting IC about her mental health next week. We have said that we need to get her out of that space before we begin MC. On a day-to-day basis, our marriage is much improved. We're more open with each other about things, and we have made the effort to spend more time together. We are actually enjoying each other's company again. And our sex life has improved 100%. We can't keep our hands off each other. I know it's probably unhealthy, and we're using sex to cover up a myriad of other issues, but we're both enjoying the ride. I also understand why people have open marriages. It isn't the physical act of her having sex with someone else I find difficult to get over, but the lies that went around it that I really struggle with. There's lots of things still to be addressed. It feels like there's a whole other side to my wife that I didn't know about and can't relate to. The woman I thought I knew wouldn't have had sex with a married stranger even when she was single. And I'm not convinced I've heard the entire truth. I don't think she's out and out lied to me again, but I do think she's holding back. I'm hoping her IC will make her realize the need to get everything out in the open, even if it means the end of the marriage. Have I made the right decisions to try and are? I don't know, but there's nothing that has told me that I've made the wrong one. I keep asking myself the same 3 questions. Do I still love her? Do I still want to be married to her? Do I believe her when she says she's not going to cheat again? As long as the answers to those 3 questions are yes, then I think I will try keep the man alive. I'm not sure what I want from this site. Hope that we can get through this. Validation that we're doing the right things. Just a place to vent. Probably a bit of all 3.